Oh, and Gamer, I did see the clip that you had gotten super duper far in your works challenge, had completed the challenge part of it, and that you had died by falling through the roof at the mall, and it's just like, no, no, that is a feels bad death. It shouldn't be up. I cashed it out. We don't, like, people no longer have the icons in front of their names saying that, you know, hey, this person bet for or against it or anything. Zidian cashing in 10 push-ups. Yeah, so do the 10 push-ups and I'll just type in the prediction command and just see what happens. Yeah. Nah, and I wasn't blaming you. Twitch be like that, though. Don't want to just walk right into a horde if we can help it. Hey, sneaky zombie wearing green on grass. That's not a bad strategy. I didn't see you till you got real close. I'm gonna die now, but I will say you definitely had some plan there. More than most of your peers whose strategy is walk directly at me and then fall over dead. Yep. As Lulu says, an attempt was made by Camo Zombie. And, like, Camo Zombie got within a good, like, 6 to 8 feet of me, so, like, good on Camo Zombie. If I hadn't turned, I probably wouldn't have noticed Camo Zombie till the very last second. Probably would have been fine, but, you know. You know, made a move, had a plan. Alright, so got a horde here, a horde there, a horde down here. Let's deal with the North Horde first, I think. Who is now walking away. Alright, we gotta hydrate. I'll do that in just a moment. First, that zombie needed to get bonked in the head. And of course, zombies make a lot of noise, so zombies attract zombies. So when you start to aggro some zombies, you usually end up attracting a bunch of others. It is one thing you'll notice that when I get a really big pain train following me and I'm being pushed back in a route, usually we'll get more and more friends. Alright, so we got a hydrate and a stretch IO now. Yep, so when I do my stretches, most of the time that's what I'm doing, is those median nerve glides. There's many different stretches for median nerve glides that honestly I should do better about learning about. A lot of them look really ridiculous but are actually really good. They'll make you do all sorts of like weird things where you put your arms straight out left and right and then you kind of like just turn your hands up and down again and again, or like shake your hands like you're trying to get water off your fingertip, like water off your hands or whatever, like all sorts of weird stuff like that. But they all help. They're all good. I need to actually write them down how you do them all and all that. Versus those two I know real well. But they can help with all sorts of stuff like, you know, tennis elbow, carpal tunnel, whatnot. Now I will point out, obviously, if you're already in a lot of pain from carpal tunnel, maybe now's not the time to stretch. You know, get that sorted first. But it is a prevention tactic to kind of warm up and stretch out the various bits and bobbles that get agitated and inflamed and all that if you don't do it. There's one of my old grad school percussive drummer teacher taught me. It's hard to describe with words, but it's similar to the medians. Yeah. And they're probably, like I said, there's a whole bunch of different varieties of those stretches. It's probably just a different variety of them. And some of them look absolutely absurd, like I said. Like some of them are like, no, you're like, no one filmed this. I feel really dumb right now, but this is making my wrist feel better, so I'm going to keep doing it. I've had my my wife walk it because there was an app I was using on the phone. I'm not gonna plug it because it's one of these apps that like at first it starts out really good. It's like, oh yeah, do this exercise, do that exercise, do this many reputations. It's all fantastic, and then you sit there and you get a little bit farther in. And it's like, okay, now buy this equipment to do the like a new version of those exercises. And if you want to look at the old exercises, well, that's too expletive bad. Oh yeah, Zidian. And it's one of those things. It's like, and the reason they're so weird when you're talking about that, so like, when you look at the way your hands work, and you think about like a crane, there are ligaments that run from the tip of your finger all the way down to about your elbow that control your fingers. So the catch you're running into is to stretch those. There's not one place you can stretch the whole thing. You kind of have to do this where it's like, okay, now I'm stretching the part that's at my wrist. Now I'm stretching the part that's like in the ends of my fingers. Now I'm stretching the part that's in my elbow. Now I'm stretching the part that's kind of in between. And then you have them on like both the inside and the outside of your arm. So you have to have like all these different exercises to try and get to each of those spots that you have to like, not contort yourself, that'd be too strong a word, but like try and do a very specific motion to exercise that specific spot, because it's just not something that gets proper exercise otherwise. And then on top of that, when you're talking about stuff like tennis elbow, it can be both the it can be either the muscle that goes from your elbow to your fingers, or it can also be the muscles that go from your elbow to your shoulder, or other muscles. Like I am not a doctor, for the record, but there can be so many different muscles it can be that contribute to that. So you start dealing with stuff like that, now you're stretching like your shoulder, all the different muscles along your arm. You stretch your neck muscles because those are related to your shoulder as well. And you end up getting, again, to all these different things where it's like, I'm trying to stretch this specific spot of this specific muscle in this specific way. And the only way to do it is to do this like weird half twist with your wrist and then start like bending your arm in this way. That's like a perfectly like normal motion. You're not contorting it or anything. Like your body is like, yeah, this is well within my range. But it's just a motion you wouldn't naturally do because it's just not. But to target that muscle is necessary. Yeah, I'm playing the part of a doctor with 4 degrees. But me, the player, is not a doctor. Oh, and if you ever want to gain weight really well in this game, just if you find yourself a jar of mayonnaise or a stick of butter or anything like that, nami nami, that weight will come. Oh boy, that weight will come. I mean, that stick of butter is 3,200 calories for a single stick of butter, and I think we've got 3 or 4 of them now. I need to drop some stuff off at the car. Azine says, those must be all PhDs for Ellen with her being unemployed. I mean, she might just not apply herself. Being educated does not necessarily mean smart, just the same as being smart does not necessarily mean being educated. It's the whole, like, Dungeons and Dragons, the difference between wisdom and intelligence. You can be extremely intelligent, but extremely unwise. Get some of these nightsticks. I don't need this many on us. Yeah, I'll actually back that up as well, Zidian. Like when it comes to the software engineers I've worked with, when I say software engineers, I should say software developers. Software engineer is a very specific title, and in some places, calling yourself an engineer is a protected title that you're not allowed to do unless you actually have an engineering certificate. Which is one of the reasons I'll say I took electrical engineering courses, but I am not an engineer. Like, I got most of the requirements for becoming an engineer, but I didn't get, like, thermodynamics or any of the general ed kind of engineering requirements, because I'm not building a freaking bridge. I'm, writing software. But, I find very few people who go into software engineering ultimately said, I'm going to college to software engineer. They're doing something else, and they hit some pain point, or pain points. They hit something that's a frustration to them, and they're just like, I have to find a way of dealing with this that's more efficient than what I'm doing. It can't be this bad. And ultimately the answer becomes software. And so they write a little software, and they're like, hey, this is kind of nice. And that's just like the gateway drug into becoming a full-time software developer. It's just, you have a pain point, you find software can solve it, you solve it, and then you go, ooh, I just made it so I don't have to work as hard. That's kind of cool. I'd like to do that some more. And then you just do more and more. And like for me, there's two events. There was one which was not really writing software so much as scripting. I had a backup system that was super duper inefficient at a job I had because I came from an IT background. That it was very, very manual, where you'd have to like push a button, put in a tape backup, wait like 10-15 minutes, just enough that I couldn't really walk away and do anything else, but way longer than you wanted to sit there and stand for it. And I'd have to do that for like 12 tapes. And that's something I had to do on a regular basis, and it was incredibly frustrating. And, a huge, colossal waste of my time. But backups are important, so it had to be done. And eventually I was like, wait, I can script this all out. So I was able to sit there and do a script where it would run this procedure where it would start, and I would just, put in, like, I'd have to put in all the tapes one by one, where it's like, put in the tape, push a button, wait 5 seconds, repeat until all 12 tapes were in. And then the script would do, like, all the rest of the work. And then once it was done, I would start the second part of the script, which is it would just rotate out the tapes, and I would take them all out one by one. And so it turned what basically was an entire day's worth of work into just something I had to deal with for like 10 minutes, go away for a couple of hours, and then deal with for 10 minutes again. But then on top of that, after that job, was it after? Yeah, after that job, I worked local government, and our entire help desk system was a Microsoft Access database, which Access is fine. One thing it was not designed to do was to be a multi-tenant, like concurrent user database. If I'm dealing with the file, no one else is allowed to touch it. So it was incredibly frustrating because, I would want to add documentation to a ticket as, a user called or whatever, and then, the technician would have forgotten to close that thing. Or, no, wasn't it we couldn't have it open? I think it's like if I updated it and someone else had it open on the previous state and updated it again, it would blow out my updates. So there was a number of times we lost information because, I had the ticket up the same time the tech did, and we didn't know that each other had it up. So I updated one thing, they updated one thing, and you would lose track of information. And that's a regular occurrence because, the technician would go out to deal with something, say something to the user, come back, start filling in that information. The user would then call me because I was the one who coordinated the IT department. And it was this whole hassle. And so finally I was like, you know what, I'm incredibly frustrated and tired of this stupid thing. We're using it for something it was never designed to. And so I wrote an entire help desk system with inventory, ticket management, users could submit their own tickets, permissions, Active Directory integration, all that kind of crap myself, having no real background in software because I was just so frustrated and had time to do so because of just how many times this had been our button. Plus the Access database, at that time, I don't know about now, you had about a 2 gig limit on how big the database could be, and then once you crossed that, like it wouldn't let you update stuff. which means every year we had to basically start over and like resubmit all the tickets that were outstanding when we flipped the years and everything. Yeah, it's like Access is great for I have a database of keeping stuff on my own computer that only I care about. Cool. It's a very simple to access database. And to the round potat says, "Bro just decimated them zombies." Oh yeah, wait till I find a katana again. Then you'll see like I will carve a direct path through the zombies. Lulu says, "It's so funny. So funny in my company, dudes from it got hurt in quotes because the job of developer didn't feature engineer in it, so it was changed to engineer of study and development." Weird. Yeah, no, it's like it's been a thing, and this is one of the things that annoys me with titles. Like, what's the difference between a software developer, a software engineer, a computer programmer, you know, a senior software developer, and all these? It's like, well, that depends on the company and all that. Yeah, and the only problem with that Zidian that we run into is like there are certain U.S. states as well as certain other countries. Calling yourself an engineer is a legally protected title, similar to calling yourself a doctor. That if you call yourself an engineer and you do not have an engineering certificate, that is a finable offense. And it makes sense. Like, if I'm trying to hire an engineer, and you're required to legally have certification, you shouldn't be able to call yourself that. And I get it. But yeah. That's actually one of the ones I found interesting was there are some places that they'll actually they give you like tokens and everything when you become an engineer to like identify yourself as an engineer. It's kind of like, you know, a little piece of evidence you carry with you says, no, really, I'm an engineer. I have my little token or whatever. I thought that was pretty cool. But the catch is, when they're talking about engineer, they're talking like mechanical engineer, optomechanical engineer, civil engineer. Like, that's the kind of engineering they're talking about versus, you know, software follows like, it has similarities to engineering, but it is a very different process. Like, as like a civil engineer, if you build a bridge and there's something wrong with your bridge, it's too late. You've built the bridge. Fixing it now is astronomically expensive, if not possible, you know, impossible without tearing down the bridge. Versus software, certainly it can be like pulling teeth, but you know, it's still software at the end of the day. Right, and I agree, Lulu. That's where the title thing is going. There's no like, this is the defining point between a software developer and a software engineer, or a software developer and a software architect. Like not every company, most companies have different things that mean those things. So as far as like me looking at a title, unless I happen to know your specific employer, what that title means to that specific employer, I just treat them all as software developer. It's kind of the same thing when you get to like a smaller company or an indie company and you see like this is the chief executive officer. It's like, okay, that doesn't mean anything to me. You're a small company. Like, are you some magic company that like everyone's heard of? No, you're just small. Okay, that very well could have been you and your best friend had a company of 2 and you took the title. So the title's meaningless. Like, very much in my mind, titles are absolutely meaningless 99% of the time, with the exception of protected titles. And all those mean is that I know for a fact you got whatever certificate or degree or whatever is required to claim that title. Doesn't mean you're good at it. It just means you at least did enough to pass a test on it. It's also the same thing when you go to a company. They're like, well, we have engineer, like software dev 1, software dev 2, software dev 3. It's like, well, what does that mean? It's like, well, that depends on the company. Some of them, it's like the way you rank up between software dev 1 and 3 is just how many years you've been at the company or how many written years of experience you have, which isn't nothing, but isn't everything. Yep, and it also can be relative to pay. That's another big thing. So it could be how aggressively you negotiate your pay and not have to do anything necessarily with your skill directly. And other companies can actually be a meaningful thing that they're like, oh yeah, no, you have to demonstrate certain skills before we're willing to bump you up and all that. Hey, Rockbeard, how's it going? Nice, nice. It's always good to be home from work. Oh, I thought there were a lot of zombies in that backyard. Gotcha. I don't necessarily have a problem with, like, I very much, and this is someone who has been, you know, like, I am a former college instructor and everything. Like, whether you learn at college, great. If you learn, like, code camp, great. If you learn, you know, using, like, third-party things where they have, like, properly prepared tutorials and all that kind of stuff, also great. If you learn through YouTube, great. If you went on, you know, you pulled up the documentation and worked through it, still great. I don't really care how people learn. And I know there's still people up and down. It's like, well, if you don't go to college, you don't learn the fundamentals. And like, half the time I hear that, my brain wants to commit suicide, because it's just like, okay, so you know how to implement your own sorting algorithm. I have a question, though. When was the last time you made your own sorting algorithm? Why would you not use whatever your technology stack's already made sorting algorithm, where you've had hundreds and hundreds of hours of engineers put in to try and bleed that thing down to the absolute possible best performance they could make happen? Yep. Well, that's one of the other ones that's really rough. That one of the reasons that I, like, around the time that I was going to college and I was instructing college, you know, it was very much like, hey, the price for college at the beginning was very reasonable for what you were getting. Like, it was not a guarantee thing to get a job, but it made it super easy to get a job by comparison. For software dev, I should preface. For software dev. And all that, but even by the time I got out of college myself, is like, that's no longer necessarily true. And then worst of all, like, each college is like, this college, what do we teach? Well, we teach Java. What if I want to learn anything but Java? Well, you're gonna have to go someplace else, because we teach Java. But there's no Java, you know, companies hiring for Java in the area. They're all, you know, moving to C# and Python, and, you know, some doing like Ruby on Rails and stuff like that. And you're like, well, we teach Java. And it's like, oh, I see. And that's where you hear but you don't learn the fundamentals. I'm sorry. I could have a long, happy career without having to take a course in discrete math. A course that is nothing but proofs. Oh yeah, discrete math was, like, at times it was the most boring class. Well, not really. It was a very boring class. I shouldn't say most, because that's being misleading. It was a very boring class. And then there are other times like this puzzle is hard and it has no reason on being hard because it doesn't matter in the real world. Like, you're not gonna deal with these ridiculous fallacies. Lulu says, I mean, we were pretty pissed when your teacher told us to go through the YouTube playlist and to do an assessment. Like, we paid for having you sitting there to give us YouTube links. Oh yeah, absolutely. So I understand when you're talking about compensation side of it. Oh yeah. When you have a college instructor and you're forking out, depending on the school you're going for, if you're talking like a very inexpensive community college, you're probably talking what? $300 to $500 for a real cheap community college in like a nice quiet area. Community college probably gets up to, I'd guess, up to $1,200-ish maybe per class. Not counting books or any extracurricular stuff. We're talking to sit your butt in a desk in that class. And then they're just going to send you to YouTube links. And then you get to like university level where they probably start at like $1,200 for a course. And then you get some of these ones that are, you know, how much does a course cost in this college? Oh, well, it's like $5,000. I have no idea. I'm not in touch with what courses are running these days, for the record. And just being like, here's YouTube links. I'm like, alright, I'm sorry. That is not an acceptable response for like $5,000. That's a response I expect, you know, when I go to my neighbor and it's like, hey, you seem to know a lot about carpentry. What can I do to learn carpentry? It's like, here, let me drop you some YouTube links. Cool. I'm not paying this person. Like, if I throw them $20 and they give you a couple YouTube links, yeah, and you know, that's fair. But if I'm forking out hundreds to thousands of dollars, I expect you to sit there and teach me. And I expect it to be very involved teaching, not just, here's the lecture, go away, children. That was one of the things I very much did enjoy when I became faculty at the university I went to. There was, like, most of my teachers were really good, but there was one specific teacher who taught a number of my core courses. Ooh, that teacher was clearly there to do research and gave 0 Fs about the classes. And it showed in every way possible. And when I became faculty, and we were under the same department and everything, I made sure to absolutely give him hell every time I could about, like, him half-assing his teaching. Yep. 10,000 pound or euro, sorry, not pounds. 10,000 euro for a full 10 courses. Trying to think of that in my head. So 10 courses, so that's probably talking 2 semesters, maybe 3 semesters, like 2.5 semesters. You'd have, you know, and that's, I'm just trying to compare with the U.S. equivalent, so that may not make sense from how it's set up in France, but 10 courses would be 2.5 semesters, so probably a full year's worth of courses here. I don't know what the conversion between the euro and the dollar is right off the top of my head. I did when I was last traveling, but that's been a while. Or at least within a ballpark, of course. Not the exact amount. They're almost 1-to-1? Okay. So you're talking 2.5 semesters for $9,000-ish. That seems quite a bit more than what most colleges would offer here. Now $9,000 for like a what do they call them? When I say state campus, there's these new things. They're state colleges, not state universities. Some of those and community colleges, like that would be high for them, but for like universities, that sounds pretty pretty cheaper. Yeah, that still sounds cheaper than like most of the major universities here in the US right now. Not counting, again, scholarships and special things like that. Just straight on, hey, I want to go to this school. I've been accepted. What's it going to cost? That sounds kind of in line with the low end of what I'd expect. So far as US schools cost. And am being deliberate in clearing south, because you see this road down here, that also can lead towards Akron. So my thought is if we clear this way, I have another route to come into, you know, come into town that isn't too bad. But it'll save me from having to come in from like the west end, circle around, take the main road. I'll be able to just come into the side that we're in progress of clearing. Once we finish clearing like all the zombies we see out of these roads, then we'll start rolling around honking the horn because apparently the light bar breaks and it's unrepairable, as best I can tell. Not salty at all about that. Maybe I'm a little bit salty about that. What's also fascinating to me is we ran those other cars, we ran their sirens hard and they never broke. And this thing's like, light bar, gone. I don't know yet. Like, first I want to actually look up if there is a way to repair it. And that just, maybe it's not clear, like, maybe I have to have certain things on my person before it shows up anything. Maybe I have to have a certain skill level or whatever. Because I genuinely don't know. Because that would be, if I were to take that mod, the first mod that actually changes gameplay aspects of it. So that's the other reason my hesitancy. Oh, I can remove this. We already got our weeboos. Alright, so probably clear to the left first. Yeah, the siren's busted. Like, and that's the thing, I don't even know when it happened, it's just... like, we turned off the siren, I went to sleep, woke up, and it's just like, siren, like, the whole light bar is at 0% and I can't use it anymore. Not the lights, not the siren, none of it works. And I tried to repair it, and just, there's no option to do anything with it. Checked grabbing light bulbs in case it's just like the light bulbs burned out or something, because it is the light bar. But I was just really confused, because they clearly added to the game, like, if I push V, I'll do it with the zombie. If I push V, the light bar no longer even shows up on the HUD there. So, like, they did specifically code it, so it recognizes when the light bar is broken. It won't even get you the option to do anything with it. But then if I go here... yeah, there's just nothing. I right-click and nothing happens. Which is honestly really annoying. Like, even if I had to, like, remove it and replace it, that'd be fine. But the fact that the light bar's there and I cannot repair it's just kind of garbage. At the same time, like, no, I don't really want to do a mod because that is unquestionably a gameplay change, even if we agree that it should just be a thing in the game. Versus all my other stuff hasn't changed gameplay. There you go. I was like, I knew there was one behind us. I actually plan on clearing this right road for the trip up next time, but it seemed like it's too long of a place to clear for today because the character's about to hit drowsy. Of course, I'm imagining most of this will probably be cleared because of all the noise we've made. We'll probably draw the zombies away from this place. But then we are going to circle back to the house just because I didn't bring enough food. Then we can check on our veggies, do all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's super annoying that doesn't show up here. And it could be something like maybe I need an amplifier to repair it, maybe I need speakers to repair it, like I don't know. Electrical wire maybe? It just doesn't give me enough information. That said, usually I'd expect that you'd right click and it'd be like, oh hey, you need a metal plate to fix this or whatever. Skills are going pretty good at a moment. Give me a moment, I will actually pull them up. Hey, old Goso. Not a whole lot. Apparently not my sirens. Those have popped for the last time. Don't know why. But apparently they can't be fixed as far as we can tell. Yeah, so I'm at Fitness 6, Strength 7. Most of my combat skills are around 7 or whatever. Gotcha. Okay. I figured it's going to be the case like that if it wasn't in the game, that it's one of those things that's just, it was an oversight kind of thing. Yeah, so apparently there's mods to allow you to repair it. I'm hesitant to add it though. Because like I said, one, that's a gameplay change. Two, I always try and have as few mods as possible. Because mods can cause all sorts of instability and all that kind of stuff. And like one of the last things I'd want to do is just throw a mod in mid-run and just have it, you know, work fine for a little while and then crash the save and all that and just make it a whole problem. Because I've definitely seen people who took on ridiculously long challenges and then got unrecoverable saves after a certain point. And like, unless I took the time to be very strict that I would back up my save multiple times during gameplay kind of thing. I wouldn't do it, because like if I put in a whole day of like 11 hours of working on this save and then the save got corrupted and my last backup was like 12, 13 hours old or whatever, I'd probably just go, okay, well the challenge is over kind of thing. Because redoing like half a day's worth of work, eh. Because these runs take for absolutely ever. That does make me think, so with what Mr. Lamprey's trying to do? Mr. Lamprey's aiming to have 1 million kills by year 10. That's a decently aggressive goal when you think about it. Considering we're coming up on 9 months, and we're going to be at somewhere like 40,000 maybe by then. So fitness is levels slowly no matter what you do. Your choices are 1. Oh yeah, that's... No, I'd imagine once you get leveled up, 100,000 is probably not terrible. But it's going to be those first 2 or 3 years that you're just not going to have the momentum. But once we get to like 9 and 10 fitness and strength, 9 and 10 and whatever our weapon of choice is, and having a lot of good weapons on standpoint. And then for one thing that's working against me, but that's going to work for Lamprey, is I have no respawns on, which means I have to go farther and farther to find zombies. And we're going to keep finding areas that don't have zombies. Lamprey does have spawns on, so Lamprey could do the thing where Lamprey goes to like Rosewood and spends a couple days there just absolutely wrecking house while the zombies are at their maximum density, and the moment it starts like waning on the number of zombies there, can pivot over to West Point, repeat the process, can pivot over to Riverside, repeat the process. You get where I'm going with this. That basically can go wherever the zombies are densest and focus on killing that. And that's not saying that's making it easy, it's still killing 1 million zombies. But I feel like hitting 100,000 under those circumstances could be completely reasonable, but still very difficult. Versus, I do agree with no respawns, hitting 100,000 zombies killed per year is probably not reasonable for my playthrough. Just because, you know, I'll wipe out the 20,000 zombies in a town or whatever it is, and then I have to find the next town. Like, I have to do that. So I have, like, that period where there's only a few zombies in town that I'm mopping up, that our kill ratio is just terrible. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, honestly, with mods, if I didn't have mods that brought in zombies quicker, I think in my playthrough, it's not the rate I kill the zombies that's the problem. It's the rate I can find the zombies that becomes the problem. Because like I said, I roll into a town, I wipe out a whole bunch, and then I have to like either get very small kill rates during that or go someplace else. Yeah, I could probably... I mean, if we really push, like went to another town, like if I went after Muldrow or something, like I could probably break 60,000 with this. 3 months if I just meat grindered Muldrow or West Point or something like that. Keep in mind, Mr. Lamprey is also doing spear meta. So, rolling around with kitted out spears and just deleting hordes of zombies. But I do think it's the finding the zombie. The exploit, I'm not aware of. Oh, I don't believe so. I believe he's just doing where you can, like, cut down a tree. Tree gives you a whole bunch of you know, a whole bunch of sticks. You can make like a whole bunch of spears. Like, I don't believe he's exploiting it anyway, no. Yeah. As Oregon saying that, you know, once you get up to those levels, it's like even at decent levels of exertion and all that, you can still just delete zombies with the spears one after the other. It's just how many spears can you reasonably carry on your person. Yeah, I do feel like the Greater Danish is saying, well, at first they're saying there are people confirming that Mr. Lamprey is not doing the exploit, which is what I figured. I did not, he does not seem like the kind of person who would exploit again, unless he was doing a very specific like challenge that the exploit was a specific part of it, but that's not what's happening. Because I've not for Project Zomboid, but I have seen games where it's like, oh, there's like an infinite whatever exploit. And they're like, okay, well that's fine. You can like you're expected to use this exploit in this specific challenge to allow you to do a challenge that would otherwise not be a thing you could, you know, not even reasonably do. It would be physically impossible to do, like an infinite stamina exploit, so that you could just, you know, fight 5 bosses at the same time, like that kind of garbage. Let's see. The Greater Danish says, I feel like there's also something to be said regarding what zombie pop has most clear speed. Like, at your rates, you often spend time backing up, you're getting exerted and all that, which goes slower, versus lower ones you can kill much faster. Yeah, there is that, but ultimately, if I have a road of 200 zombies, whether I'm doing that over a long period of time, if I'm continuing to keep the damage on them, I'm going to be going faster. Even if I have, say, like the full-on 30% damage penalty, if I'm able to just keep sustainably hitting them, as long as I'm getting that extra, like, gets a 30% damage reduction, as long as I'm able to get that extra hit in the time it would normally to get, you know, those 4 hits or whatever on a not dense group, then I'm still going faster. Just by damage numbers. But yeah. Oh yeah, Mr. Lamprey is excellent. I mean, I actually plugged him earlier this stream. Very similar content to my own. Like, for what I'm doing is I'm doing the whole thing that we have an absolutely absurd zombie population, multiple helicopters with no respawns, you know, with their goal of killing them all, knowing that we're somewhere over 1 million zombies. You're not dead. Somewhere over 1 million zombies to kill. Mr. Lamprey's challenge is, in the course of 10 years in-game in Project Zomboid, kill 1 million zombies at insane pop. And so, while the specifics around what we're doing are very different, like we're very much on the opposite end of the spectrum so far as like respawns, no respawns, and all that, the kind of the playstyle is very similar. Of find a ridiculous number of zombies, kill a boatload of them, keep doing that till they're not finding a bunch of zombies, then go to the next place with a bunch of zombies. The difference being is I'm clearing an area out and making it a ghost town, whereas Mr. Lamprey will be leaving that place, going on to the next area that's dense with zombies, wiping them all out, and then spinning back to re-clear that area at some point later. But in practice, a lot of it will be very similar. Some of the difference, though, is Mr. Lamprey is being very strategic in that, you know, he is deliberately going out of the way to get himself set up on a really good weapon, doing all that stuff. Whereas I'm just going, what weapons do I have available? I'll use that. Yeah. I honestly have been debating mixing up my strategy as well, and just pushing east after Riverside, which is probably the incorrect call strategically, but could be interesting. Hey, Red Hawk Black Sheep, dropping in with the raid. Give me 1 second, I'll get you a shout out. Playing some Project Zomboid, so how was your stream? Hopefully, the only deaths were the zombies, and if not, hopefully those deaths were at least fun and or educational. Or I should say you learned something. Because the only deaths that are feel bad deaths are the deaths that you walk away from and go, I don't know what I can do to prevent that death from happening again. Like, I did not walk away from this feeling like I've learned something. Let's get these axes out of here. I'm actually cool with keeping the extra water bottles in there. What am I doing? I keep a second bag on me for this very specific purpose. Alright, we got our hydrate here. I'll do that in a minute. Sure, I'll toss that up there, and the rest of that can sit in here. Let's see. Red Hawk Black Sheep says, it went excellent. My god, man. My base at the combination liquor store, gas store in the center of the Valley Station is finally completely safe. That's usually the moment you die is when you think you're completely safe. But nevertheless, no sledgehammer. But we blocked the stairs with cars I'm no longer using. Just so you know, in case you weren't aware, zombies can crawl under cars. Just as a heads up. There's no such thing as completely safe in this game without, like, exploiting. And I will warn people who use the cars to block stuff off. If you have those chain link fences, the tall chain link fences, and you have a car pulled up against the side of that, zombies will crawl under the car and sometimes glitch through the fence. So just as a heads up, if you are using a chain link fence for the border of your property, just know, if you're putting a car next to it, you might be allowing the zombies to completely bypass your defense. I haven't personally seen it happen, but I have a lot of people who said that it's a thing, that I'd be like, alright, it's probably a thing. Like, in a lot of people, I would trust their information, I should say, on top of that. We have so many axes. Because I almost never use axes. Yeah, we're sitting on something like 11 or 12 fire axes now, not even counting like hand axes or anything else. And then a wood axe. So we got food, medicine, a pair of socks. What are we doing so far as weapons? So I need some extra weapons I can bring in our back. Let's grab the lead pipe and one of the garden hose, and I think that should be plenty for now. Drop off the medicine. Let's see. Red Hawk Black Sheep says, what I usually do is board up windows, then block them with cars. They can't crawl under and then get up and beat on the windows if you keep the cars flush with the windows. Though to each their own, of course. Yeah. Like, and I don't know what all they can and can't do in those types of situations. But, and I've said on here, like, even if I were to find a way that 100% without question I'm just safe, I probably wouldn't do it. And not because of, like, moral high ground or anything else like that. Like, it's just, for me, the danger of the zombies is part of the thing that makes the game fun for me. The moment I don't feel like there's danger, I stop having fun. And then the one rule we have here is kind of like, hey, it doesn't matter what way you're playing the game. If you're having fun, congratulations, you're playing the game correctly. So the counter to that rule is, if you're not having fun...
Rancid Ralph just subscribed. Yo, how's it going?
It's going good. Thank you for the 3 months you've resubbed, Rancid Ralph. I really do appreciate that. It's been going pretty well. Yeah, what I was saying is the reverse of that rule would of course be is if you're not having fun, you're in fact not playing the game correctly. I'm gonna have to move stuff. Our cabinets, they be getting full. So yeah, for me what ends up happening is once I've got my base safe and secure, like that's the point I start doing reckless stuff because I start getting bored. Okay, so I went in the 5th one. I'm just having to shuffle my stuff around to make room because I filled up all my side weapon cabinets. Oh yeah, that is one thing I do think is one of the greatest assets for Project Zomboid, is you can tweak just a few settings and change your playstyle just a little bit and be playing almost what feels like a different game. Like anyone who turns on sprinters, I feel like they're playing an entirely different game than I am playing. I don't much care for the sprinter playthrough. That's my personal opinion, but the fact that that's there is lovely. I know there's people who don't like fighting ridiculous number of zombies like I do. Cool. They like doing the base building and decorating and all that. It's like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that's in this game. You know, I'm glad you can have, like, build the ridiculously sprawling base that you decorate, and you take the time to tile the floors and paint up the walls and pretty it up. I think it's amazing that that's in this game, because there's so many games that don't give you those kind of options. Like the sandbox settings alone in this game are one of the things that make it so wonderful. That reminds me of another thing, because I was talking about the stuff that I'm not sure if you saw the yesterday they had their Thursdoid came out, which is where they announced like all the big changes coming up and all that. And they were talking about not the next patch, but like the next major patch, next big patch. So think like 3-6 plus months down the road patch. That they were talking about adding livestock to the game for like animal husbandry and all that kind of stuff and whatnot. But one of the things that came up was they are going to overhaul fishing. So that the idea is, right now, the way you fish in the game is you right-click. You right-click and basically say, fish. And then your character just gets fish. Kind of like the old foraging was. You just right-click and say, forage. And you would get stuff. That's going away. It is going to be more active fishing. And they gave specifics on how it worked and all that, but I haven't fully looked through it. I'm just gonna put that there, I don't care. I haven't looked through it all or anything, but you're gonna have to like drag your line and that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, so it's gonna be active, like you actually participate in a meaningful manner in the fishing. That's probably better than right click and fast forward. Yeah, or you fish with the spear, i.e. you stab the living hell out of the water. Until fish. Closer and closer to R-rated Stardew Valley. I mean, you're not wrong. Alright, so we need to grab some food. Because otherwise I'll forget to. Alright, so our strawberries are all basically going bad now. Grab our potatoes as well. Why did our potatoes rot? Potatoes, why you be like this? That's okay. We sleep, then we farm.